This is Horror Across Borders, the channel where we explore the darkest legends from every corner of the world. If you love folklore, tragedy, and terror, make sure to subscribe, because tonight we're uncovering Thailand's most heartbreaking ghost story, one that will leave you haunted long after it ends. In the world of folklore, some stories linger not just because of the jump scares, but because of the human tragedy that powers the haunting. Every culture has its ghost born from violence or sorrow. But in Thailand, one of the most feared spirits isn't some ancient demon. It's a young woman, a wife and new mother, so consumed by love that death itself couldn't keep her from her husband. That love was powerful enough to defy the grave, but when it was threatened, it twisted into a terrifying, destructive force. This is the story of Mae Nak, Thailand's most heartbreaking and horrifying legend. And this story doesn't begin with a scream. It begins with a love story. In the Phra Khanong district of Bangkok, back when it was just canals and wooden stilt houses, lived a young couple, Nak and her husband Mak. Their devotion was the kind that everyone in the village admired. They were inseparable, dreaming of a future together with the baby they were expecting. It was perfect, too perfect. And that's what makes the turn so devastating. Because in folklore and in life, love and tragedy are never too far apart. To really understand the tragedy, you have to picture their life as it was. The warm, humid air of the Thai countryside. A small wooden house on stilts above the water. The slow rhythm of village life, where time seemed to drift as gently as the canal itself. Mak and Nak were more than husband and wife. They were partners in every sense of the word. Neighbors often saw them walking hand in hand by the water, sharing quiet smiles, the kind of love that radiated outward until it felt like it belonged to the whole community. With a child on the way, their future seemed certain. A life together, growing old side by side, watching their baby grow into the world. It was simple, it was beautiful, and it was the kind of happiness that folklore always warns us cannot last. Because when a story is told across generations, it's rarely about a love that endured. It's about the moment that love was shattered. And that's exactly what was about to happen. The summons came suddenly, as it often does in stories like these. Men were being conscripted for military service, and Mak, husband, soon to be father, the heart of Nak's world, was called away. Their farewell unfolded on the banks of the same canal where they had once shared their happiest moments. But this time, their laughter was gone. Nak, heavy with child, clung to him through tears, filled with dread she couldn't shake. Mak swore he would survive, that he would come back to her and their baby. He told her to wait for him, and she promised she would. As his boat disappeared into the distance, Nak's home felt emptier than ever. The stilt house, once alive with love, now echoed with silence. She sat by the canal for weeks, then months, waiting for a boat that never came. Meanwhile, Mak was thrown into the brutality of combat. He was badly wounded, but he held on, driven by a single thought, the promise of returning home. Sent to a camp in central Bangkok to recover, Mak fought through his pain with the image of Nak and their unborn child, keeping him alive. What he didn't know was that back home, his wife was facing a battle far more tragic than any war. Back in Phra Khanong, Nak went into labor. It was a long, grueling delivery, and without Mak by her side, the outcome turned tragic. Both mother and child died during childbirth. The heartbroken villagers laid them to rest at the local temple, Wat Mahabut. For most stories, this would be the end. But in Thai folklore, there is a death so powerful, so sorrowful, that it never really ends. A woman who dies in childbirth becomes something more than just a ghost. She becomes a Pai Tai Tan Klom, a spirit bound by grief, love and rage so intense that it twists into supernatural power. And Nak, whose love for Mak was absolute, could not accept death. She had made him a promise. She would wait. And so she did. Her spirit rose, anchored to the world by a love that refused to fade. She returned to their stilt house, caring for the child that no longer lived, waiting for the husband who would. The house was no longer empty. It was haunted by devotion so strong it had broken the boundary between life and death. After months of recovery, Mak finally set out for home. Every step carried him closer to the life he had fought to protect. He imagined the moment he would see Nak again, hold his child, and put the war behind him. But as he drew near to Phra Khanong, something unsettled him. Friends and neighbors he had known since childhood didn't greet him with joy. Instead, their eyes widened in shock, then fear. They whispered among themselves, quickly turning away, as if they wanted to speak but dared not. Mak brushed it aside. He had survived the battlefield. Nothing could take away the reunion he had dreamed of. And then he saw her. Nak stood in the doorway of their stilt house, cradling their baby. She looked as beautiful as the day he had left, her skin flawless, her smile unchanged. Relief washed over him in a wave so strong it drowned out every unease. He ran to her, embraced her, and for the first time in months, the horrors of war melted away. Life seemed to return to normal. Nak cared for him tenderly. Their home was warm, the meals perfect, the nights filled with quiet laughter. To Mak, it was everything he had longed for. But beneath the surface, cracks were already showing. Villagers tried to warn him in hushed tones, urging him to see the truth, but he grew angry and pushed them away. How dare they question the wife who had waited for him so faithfully? What Mak didn't realize was that he wasn't living with his wife at all. He was living with her ghost, a flawless illusion born of devotion and denial. The illusion shattered on an ordinary afternoon. Mak sat in their home as Nak prepared food, the smell of chilies filling the air. It was the kind of moment that should have been comforting, grounding him in the life he thought he'd regained. Then it happened. As she worked, Nak accidentally dropped a lime. It rolled across the wooden floor and slipped through a crack, tumbling down into the dirt beneath the house. What Mak saw next froze the breath in his chest. Nak didn't bend down. She didn't move toward the door. Instead, her arm began to stretch, elongating unnaturally, bones and sinew twisting, snaking down through the floorboards as though her body no longer obeyed the laws of the living. Her ghostly hand plucked the lime from the dirt, then recoiled back, snapping into place as if nothing had happened. The house fell silent. The air turned cold. In that instant, Mak's world collapsed. All the warnings he had ignored, the villagers' fearful whispers, his wife's flawless, unchanging beauty, it all came rushing together with the force of a lightning strike. This was not Nak. This was not the life he had fought to return to. He had been sharing his home, his bed, his very life, not with his beloved wife, but with her ghost. He knew he had to escape, but how do you run from a ghost whose love is as inescapable as the grave? That night, Mak lay awake beside his wife's spectral form. Every shift of the bed, every whisper of her breath made his skin crawl. He knew the truth now, and he knew he couldn't stay another moment. At dawn, he put his plan into motion. He rose slowly, careful not to disturb her, and told Nak he needed to step outside to relieve himself. a perfectly ordinary excuse, one she had no reason to doubt. But once outside, he didn't stop. He ran. His heart pounded as he tore through the village, desperate to escape the home that was no longer his. In some versions of the story, he hid himself among the thickets of blumea plants, a herb said in Thai folklore to confuse ghosts. But even that could not protect him for long. His true sanctuary lay in consecrated ground, Wat Mahabut Temple, the only place her spirit could not cross. When Nak discovered his absence, the mask of love fell away, replaced by fury. Her cries shook the village, her voice no longer tender but sharp as broken glass. She had been betrayed, abandoned by the man she had defied death to be with. Her sorrow ignited into rage. Windows rattled, shadows stretched, and the once quiet banks of Phra Khanong were drowned in her screams. Villagers who had tried to warn Mak were said to meet grisly fates, torn apart by the wrath of the spirit they had feared all along. Mae Nak's love, once strong enough to conquer death, had now twisted into something unstoppable, a vengeful storm that would not rest until the man she loved was hers again. The once peaceful village was plunged into a nightmare. Mae Nak was no longer just a grieving spirit. She was a vengeful force of nature. The people of Phra Khanong lived in terror. Every night, Mae Nak's wails echoed over the canals, a chilling reminder that grief had curdled into vengeance. Exorcists were summoned, holy men performed rites, but nothing could break the grip of her sorrow. Finally, the villagers turned to a figure of immense respect, Somdet Phra Phutachan, known as Somdet Tu, one of the most revered monks in Thai history. Unlike the others, he did not approach Mae Nak with weapons or fire. He came with compassion. According to legend, Somdet Tu faced her at the edge of Wat Mahabut, where consecrated ground held her back. Her form was terrifying, eyes burning with fury, voice a storm of grief. Yet he did not recoil. Instead, he spoke to her gently, his words drawn from Buddhist teaching. He told her that her love had become a chain, binding her spirit to suffering, that clinging to what was gone was trapping her in endless pain. And then he offered her something no one else had, hope. He promised that her devotion would not be wasted, that she and Mak would be reunited in another life when the cycle of rebirth brought them together again. There are many endings to the tale. Some say the monk trapped her in an earthen jar and cast it into the canal. Others whisper he kept her spirit bound within a piece of her bone, fashioned into an amulet. But the most enduring version is the one where his words touched her heart. For the first time since her death, Mae Nak wept not in rage, but in release. Her spirit bowed to the teachings, and she finally let go. The haunting was over. With Mae Nak's spirit pacified, peace returned to Phra Khanong. But her story never faded. Instead, it spread, becoming one of Thailand's most enduring legends. Her tale has been retold in plays, TV dramas, and countless films, each generation reshaping her sorrow into something unforgettable. Over time, something remarkable happened. The ghost who once terrified her village became a figure of reverence. At Wat Mahabut, a shrine was built in her honor. Today, the Mae Nak Shrine is one of Bangkok's most famous spiritual sites. Visitors come not to ward her off, but to seek her blessings. Women pray to her for safe childbirth, the very blessing she was denied. Young men facing military conscription ask for her help, hoping to avoid the fate that once tore her from Mak. Devotees leave offerings of dresses, cosmetics, even toys for her lost child. Some even leave televisions, switched on, so that her spirit might never feel alone. The woman who defied death for love became more than a ghost. She became a guardian. The legend of Mae Nak endures because it taps into our most powerful emotions, love and loss. It's a story that reminds us that the scariest things aren't always monsters. Sometimes they're tragically human. Mae Nak is a chilling figure of horror, yet she's also a symbol of devotion, a woman whose love literally broke the boundary between life and death. Her story is a paradox, a tale of love turned to terror, and of terror that, over time, has been transformed back into a form of sacred love. She is, and always will be, Thailand's most heartbreaking and its most terrifying ghost. If you found this story of love and terror as fascinating as we did, be sure to like and subscribe to Horror Across Borders for more deep dives into the world's most chilling legends. Let us know in the comments. What do you think makes a ghost story truly scary? Is it the supernatural horror or the human heartbreak behind the haunting? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.